Today we're going to knock out some delicious meatballs with some marinara sauce. This is just your standard red sauce, but we're going to make it from scratch. I'm going to use my Dutch oven, obviously, that's what I've been doing all week. And then we have two different types of tomatoes here. We got the peeled whole tomatoes and some tomato puree. We're going to use both. We're also going to need an onion and some garlic. We're going to cut this up the regular way that we've been dicing an onion. If you want more details on how to do that, jump over to my knife skills video, but it's just much easier to do it in halves. Also, for an onion this large, you can do it all in whole if you want, but cutting it in half will give you these really, really nice small dice pieces. Check out the video if you want to learn more, but my knife skills aren't great. Don't use me as your example. I'm also going to use the garlic press for the garlic. You can chop it all by hand if you want, but I personally feel that the garlic press gives it a little richer, deeper flavor in your sauce because that garlic's going to really melt into the sauce. It won't be whole pieces in there. You won't even notice it's in there because it's just going to melt away beautifully. We're going to now get started on that sauce. That's all you need to start it. Good amount of olive oil into your Dutch oven or whatever pot you're going to use here, and then we're going to add in the onions cold. I like to do that because the goal here is just to get them translucent, so I don't want them going in too hot and getting color on them right away. But once we get them in there, we're going to bring up that heat, we're going to salt them, we're going to add a little bit of pepper at this stage as well, and then we're going to let that go for about 2 or 3 minutes before we add the garlic. I want to get them sweating a little bit. I don't want that garlic in there right from the start because it may overcook. But right about there, we got some nice bubbling going on. We're going to add in these garlic cloves. Use as much garlic as you want in your recipe. If you like it really heavy in garlic, go like 10 cloves. I went right around the middle, 5 or 6. Now, we do use peeled whole tomatoes. You can use 2 cans of puree, but I think the peeled tomatoes are the highest quality, so I like to use those. I just don't love huge chunks of tomato in my sauce, so we are going to separate those out of the can, and then we're going to use a hand mixer, and we're just going to get them much finer. You can leave them larger chunks if you want. That is absolutely fine, but I just like to get in there, kind of break it up, and then we're going to set that to the side, and we'll be ready to add that to the sauce at a later point. But keep the chunks as big as you're comfortable with and as large as you like. Try to also not spill it all over your board. But right about there, that's about 15-20 minutes in. The water is coming out of these onions, and that's exactly what you're looking for. At this point, you can see them browning a little bit on the bottom. We're almost fully there. Another 5 or 10 minutes, and we'll be absolutely perfect. We are also going to take out about half of this mixture here. I'm going to take it out, put it into a bowl. This is going to be used for the meatballs. The other half is going to stay in and mix in with the sauce, but those we're going to cook a little more. We're going to eat it right about there. We're going to let it get a little more browned for in the sauce. To now deglaze, you can use wine if you want, but I'm going to use some vermouth. You can use anything that's white wine-like if you want. In the French onion dishes, we use some bourbon. That really wouldn't work here in a tomato sauce, but you can. Some people use red wine as well, but get that in. Really get those good bits up off the bottom. Once you get them all up, dive right in and add that sauce in. As you can see, I turned up the heat a little bit just because we're adding a bunch of cold tomato sauce right now, but we're going to put these in and we're going to really let them kind of come up to a beautiful simmer. You're going to use half of the puree can, and then make sure the peeled tomato can, you rinse it out with some water, and then we're going to add that water in. Just gives it a little help as it sits here on the stove boiling for a while. Your water will evaporate out as it reduces and leave you with a really nice tomato flavor. Mix that all up, and we're going to then cover that, and we're going to let it sit. First, though, you got to salt it, pepper it, give it a good mix, and that's exactly what you're looking for. If you have a Parmesan rind sitting around like I do, throw it in there. People love doing that. It gives it kind of a, a Parmesan type flavor. I don't know if I can tell, but people say to do it. So if you have one, throw it in. Give it a cover, and now we're going to go about making the meatballs. I have a mixture here of 1 pound of pork and 1 pound of ground beef. Try to get the fattiest ground beef you can. This is 80-20. If you can find in your grocery store 75-25, use that. Also, you're very lucky. I wish mine had that, but the 80-20 is the best they do. We're going to add in all of those onion, garlic pieces here. A little bit of the olive oil is also totally fine. Bunch of parsley at this stage as well. 2 eggs, it's going to help with the binding process. You don't necessarily need to use these, but I do think they are a little better tasting. It's totally subjective. We're going to also add in some panko. You could add in any other type of breadcrumb that you want, and then we're going to grate in some cheese. There's no exact measurements here. You feel it out for what you like, how you want to make it. It's a trial and error process. It may take you a few times to get your flavor and your consistency exactly what you're looking for, but it's worth it. Give it a try. We're going to add a little bit of garlic powder in as well, and then we're going to start mixing it by hand, but you really don't want to overmix this. You don't want it to become like a meatloaf and thick, so I'm going to start with the hands, but we're not going to get too much in here. This is just to start really incorporating it. I can tell it's a little bit loose at this point, so I'm going to add a few more breadcrumbs in. And then to not overwork it, we're going to go at it with the wooden spoon and just mix it a little more, but make sure you're keeping this still fairly airy, fairly light. Do not overmix this, and you'll just get these brick meatballs, which if you like really dense meatballs, that's fine, but if you like them a little looser like most people do, try to not overmix your meat here. That's just key. We're also going to brown these in a pan prior to them going into the sauce. Just a little bit of high smoke point oil. Do not use olive oil at this stage. It could go a little bitter with the heat. Get as large of a size as you want. I'm doing some larger meatballs here because we're using them kind of as an appetizer. But if you're going to put these in with just like some pasta, maybe make them a little smaller than this. And we're just going to try to brown all the sides. You can do this in an oven if you want. There's any other way you can do this. Some people throw them right into your sauce and let them fully cook in there. But I do like to get them a little brown on all sides before we do that. Keep moving them around and you'll be totally fine. That's kind of what you're looking for right there. The centers are definitely still raw, which is totally fine. We're actually going to take these out and let them cool down for a little bit and kind of retain their juices before we throw them in the sauce. You can also make these the day before, which is also totally fine. But now I'm just going to pull them out, throw them on some paper towels to drain off some of that oil. And then if you're going to do it later, throw them in the fridge. If not, just leave them out waiting. Here's the sauce. It's looking absolutely beautiful. It's reduced a little bit. I'm going to throw in one meatball now, and I'm going to cook this guy off just to taste it, see how the flavors are. Loved it, so we're going to continue with the process here. You can just cook it in the pan if you want to, but I'm also going to add a little bit of cream, which I think helps with the acidity. This is not going for like a vodka cream-based sauce, but I think just a little bit of cream into the sauce kind of really cuts through, helps a lot. I'm also going to add a tiny little butter, which will give it a really nice mouthfeel and some kind of shine to your sauce. That's how most Italian restaurants get that beautiful color. They add a little bit of butter at the end. And now we're going to toss in all those meatballs. It'll probably take somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes since I let these cool to come back to temperature. And the ones that were a little raw still in the center because of their size will fully cook at this point. Toss them all in. You can let them sit in here for an hour. Some people do the full cooking in here like I mentioned earlier. So you're not going to overcook them. They will stay tender and beautiful and just take in those flavors. And we're just going to cover that. Leave it a little cracked to let some of the steam out. Make sure you check on them every once in a while. Move them around. If you're able to fully submerge them in the sauce, you're fine, but I don't have that much sauce in here. So just pay attention to them, move them around. Now let's plate these up. I'm doing this, like I said, kind of like an appetizer, so it's just going to be meatballs on a plate. This isn't going to be on a pasta dish. So we're just going to get them out. We're going to cover them in a little bit of beautiful Parmesan cheese. We're going to top them with a little bit of parsley. And then you are good to go. These are so easy to make. They're a little bit time consuming. That's why people do their Sunday sauce, Sunday meatballs. It's so worth it though. You could also cook off all these meatballs way in advance, freeze them, keep them in your fridge. Look at how beautiful that is. You get that parsley on it, gives it kind of that earthy freshness from the parsley. You get the saltiness from the cheese, the acidity from the sauce, and then the meat is just that umami. Everything about this is fantastic. Give these a try. Let me know what you think. And keep cooking, guys, and I hope you enjoy watching.